It's like sort of the moral of the story. We're cautioning people against getting too relaxed, but I don't want to take that too far. That feeling in the first swim of feeling like I chose the right wetsuit. This is the most beautiful lake. This is a strong pace. This feels good is best enjoyed when you're not super stressed. Maybe the takeaway is like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You miss a swim and you still have a great day. Stay relaxed. And
Got
you
it.
finish and you feel so happy. No,
I'm
and
so
I'm
fast.
I know there were a couple comments about that. Like, the pace is so much faster than last year.
I'm way better than last year.
It definitely depends on your goals, but match your level of relaxation to the goals that you're making. And if the goals you're making are not like a time goal or a podium goal or a placement goal, some kind of outcome goal, oh my goodness, don't stress. Swimrun is so fun. Don't ruin it with stress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly like the experience that we were trying to get, the experience goal was met in spades. And, I can't recommend this race highly enough.
Welcome to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Annie.
Welcome to episode 283 of the show. This is our Bellingham Swimrun race report from 2025. And the reason Annie Molsberry's here, our dear friend, swimrunner, Swimrun Labs, the whole thing. You've heard her on episodes. I don't know how many episodes she's been on, over 20 at this point.
At
for
least.
the Deer Talk series. Her husband, Brett Molsberry, Quest Races, they put on Bellingham Swimrun, and we thought it'd be super fun to do this race as a triple. So not only did we partake in Bellingham Swimrun, which is lovely for our second year in a row, but we also did it for the first time. This is the year of new experiences. We did it as a triple. So welcome to the show, Annie. It was so fun to race with you yesterday.
Yes,
it was so fun. It feels like just yesterday.
It does feel like yesterday.
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Note to everyone listening, we're recording this the day after.
Yeah, we raced as an unsanctioned team of 3. We were unsanctioned by the race director, actually.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared for us. They didn't have the triple bib, so we had to be creative with that.
Mm-hmm.
And we also struggled with actually defining what our team name was. There was lots of names going around. Coming to alignment on a name. There's a lot of ideas being thrown around. Löw Tide Labs, the one lake race team.
I thought it'd be funny if we were Team 1 USA because we were a triple. So we're doing one water race style, but we're doing like the one lake race, like not the ultimate proof of human capacity.
Like the minimum proof of human capacity?
Yes, it's a race that we did, but it was 3, but it did not take us 3 days.
I also had the idea, I told this to Chris, but not to you, Chipper, of calling us because Chris and I share an aspect of injury, and it's the lowest level of the lumbar spine, L5 vertebrae, and S1 vertebrae, which is the top of your sacrum. L5, S1, but we both have that we're dealing with and healing with. And we could have called ourselves L2S1, which would stand for Löw Tide Böyz 2, Swimrun Labs 1.
Wow. It's like
but
a
that's
chemistry
like
equation.
super niche. That's super niche for the anatomy nerds out there.
Yeah.
So what's
lots
our
of
name?
choices? Yeah.
Oh, the other one that I thought of actually, and super creative, was the triplets. People called us the triplets.
They're being called the triplets out on the course.
Yeah. I think we should be the triplets.
Yeah, like how there's like the triplets of Belleville, that famous cartoon would be the triplets of Bellingham.
Yeah,
that's good.
Wow, look at us. This is live, people. We're workshopping this live. Thinking about trying to come up with a team name.
Everyone needs to be represented. Let's sit on it and then decide for real by the end.
All right. We'll come back to this at the end of the show. Yeah, so this is our second year doing the race. We've been saying for years, you got to support your local swim runs. We're committed to supporting the swim runs in our time zone as best we can. And we love going up to Bellingham. So Annie, why don't you give the folks listening or watching this on YouTube a flavor of Lake Padden and where this race is held before we get into our race report?
Sure. Lake Padden is a Bellingham City park. So it's public land. and it's shared by families, people of all ages, people who want to go fishing, people who want to go kayaking, people who want to go swimming, people who want to go paddling, people who want to run around the lake, people want to take their horse on the horse trails, people want to take their dogs, everybody. And it's a lake. It has multiple docks. It has a boat launch. It has a like ADA accessible portion of trail, wide, like graded gently. There's playgrounds. This is all kind of the front half of Lake Padden, and then the back half of Lake Padden are these quite a lot of elevation gain. There's some rugged single track back there. There's some big trees back there, lots of old growth actually within Bellingham city limits in a park that's right in the middle of the city. There's over 6 miles of trails when you don't loop back on anything, but if you do loop back, there's even more. And it's a beautiful place to have in our backyard. If you just go there for a swim run, which we did, or a swim run race, you're sharing it with the community of Bellingham, which is a cool aspect of the race. That's what I think Lake Padden is like. What did I miss?
Well, no, I think the only thing you're
swim run
missing,
playground.
Chipper, it's exactly what I was going to say, right? It's like Orcas Island vibes, like so conducive for swim running. It's hard not to be low key jealous that this is kind of like, down the street
I am
from your
jealous.
house.
I'm very
And you
lucky.
could technically swim run there every day.
I'm very lucky. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
There's so many options. Brent and I just kind of have a fun time coming up with different little loops we like to do of different distances, tons of swim entrances and exits. Yep, you should be jealous.
Yeah.
You could do a 5-hour swim run out there, no problem.
Yeah.
It's an amazing spot. I was really excited to go back this year and excited that Annie, you were up for triple teaming up with us, the triplets of Bellingham potentially as our team name.
Working team name.
And yeah, so we headed up there. Chris, you were already up there. You went on Friday with some family, met a mutual friend, and had a whole little pad for yourself. And I just came up as Uncle Chipper and crashed the party.
Yeah, so a good friend of mine who actually incidentally came out with us when we did Orcas Island 3 years ago, he had twins, and one of my best friends were like, hey, why don't we come up and do the race? Why don't we come up and get an Airbnb and then our kids can hang out? So they have twin 3-year-olds, boy and a girl, and then my kids, and then us. So Chipper was coming into, and he was well prepped. I was like, hey, just so you know, there's some young kids here. He was a good sport about it. And yeah, so we had a really nice Airbnb, spent the weekend, hung out, went to the farmer's market Saturday morning and did stuff like that, which was fun. It rained, so we got the full Bellingham experience. And all the locals who like don't even bother putting on rain jackets, like it's almost like a badge of honor just to get rained on. That's what it seemed. I don't know if you could confirm or deny that.
People were not wearing rain jackets. Usually we just wear
They
rain
just had like their
jackets every
hoodies.
day.
Daily.
Daily rain,
Just
yeah.
like, let me show you how much this rain bothers me, as in not at all, which I liked.
I just have like a dress up rain jacket, a biking rain jacket, a walking rain jacket. I have lots of rain jackets. A swimming rain jacket.
What's six?
Well, there you go. Yeah. So Chipper flew in. So I was there. I got there on Friday. Chipper came in Saturday, flew straight into Bellingham, picked him up, hung out, had lunch, and then we did a shakeout swim run with you and Brett, which was super fun. We basically did the short course, scoped out the lay of the land, got to go on some trails, got to catch up, got to test out our tether situation. So, for a triple, what we did is I was like the meat in the swim run sandwich where Chipper was leading the swims. He was tethering to me. And then Annie, you were tethering to me. And then we were just kind of going in a line and, kind of worked on our tether, shortened it up, did what people should do before a swim run, which is test out your gear, test out your tether length, all things that are worthy doing the day before your actual swim run. And that was super fun to just have that time with you guys and get like the VIP tour of the course, which was super fun.
Yeah, same. That's ideal, like you're saying, to carve out the time to make sure your systems work. And we all know how to tether, but we weren't totally sure about the 3-person tether. So it works. It especially works great when you're in the back.
And we, just like we advised you two, because you two had some length issues to deal with. I think it was a little bit long on your end that we found out. And then literally in the parking lot, both of you laid down on the ground, kind of head to foot, measured it out and tidied it up there. So, we follow our own advice for most of what we recommend, little foreshadowing there. for folks. But yeah, I think it was a good time to test that. We also, hey, what wetsuit do we want to use? How's the water temp? We got to answer a lot of these type of questions, which I know are some of the frequently asked questions that we get before a race for anyone that's out there. What's the water like? I'm kind of becoming more and more like everyone's their own, judge on how they do with cold water or what cold even means to them. Some people are like, oh, this is fine. I'll do in a sleeveless wetsuit, no problem. Other people's are like, I need neoprene gloves and a baklava situation and all this stuff. It's very independent on water temp. So you can answer that question for yourself with a little bit of a shakeout situation. We did what, like 5Ks? So maybe 50 minutes, an hour of swim running, pretty chill, shake it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great.
and so as Annie alluded to, like I've been pretty injured and I didn't want to aggravate my injury, but I also don't want to miss this event. So before we did the triplet idea, like Chipper and I were having conversations around, hey, I want to do it, but I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be able to give you. So in our pre-race, it was just like, hey, I want to go, I want to do it, but are you okay with these factors? Which is it might be slow. We might have to slow up on transitions. When we've done swim and shakeout or swimmer practices, transitioning out of the water in particular was the thing that was causing me the most like trepidation, and it was cool. So we also were able to use Saturday for me to share the same thing with Annie, which I think I mentioned a couple of times. It's like I'm also not trying to be out there all day, so I want to try to move through this thing,
Yeah.
but I'm just not sure what my capacity is going to be. Spoiler alert, like it ended up being fine. I think like there wasn't that much consistent running, which is the type of thing that tends to aggravate my back. Plus the swimming was just long enough and just dispersed enough throughout the race where I felt like I was getting a break. And as we say, if you're doing like a 20-mile swim run, it doesn't feel like you've run 20 miles because with the swim breaks, you kind of get some recovery there. So I was able to hold up for all of it, which I'm just happy.
Yeah. And I mean, that was something that, again, we also talked about this a lot. We just communicated, not obviously between Chris and I on when we were practicing, kind of seeing how the back is. Hey, how was that transition? Was that good for you, slower? How can I help? But then also when we were running, hey, how's this pace? This is kind of what it's going to be like tomorrow. So just kind of level setting with everybody, getting everyone on the same page. And hey, at the end of the day, I know Chris and I were looking to go out there and have a couple hours of fun with Annie and go out and do something cool and do the triple team. And that's really what we were coming up to Bellingham for. Not to, bust any course records out or stand on the podiums. We just wanted to go out there and have a good time and swim around with some friends. So, mission accomplished on that piece, on the number one goal out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The race was on Sunday. At the time of recording, it was yesterday. One thing that I really love about this race is that the long course starts at 9 a.m.
Yes.
I was beside myself with so much time in the morning.
What did you do?
The short course starts at 11.
I drank more coffee. That's
yeah.
It's almost like, at some point you just want to get on with it. But yeah, it was like, it certainly felt just like no pre-race stress. Like, it's not like, oh, I got to get a poop in.
I got to say, like, in reflecting on the whole experience, just like I know you guys well, and I've actually never raced with anyone, but you guys have never raced with anyone but each other. I'm trying to create a new category for myself to make this special. I know you have raced with somebody else in a swim run, and Chipper, you have, but you've never raced with someone else in a swim run with the both of you, right?
That's true.
Certainly not.
So that was a whole new thing, but everything else about it was really comfortable. I live here. I know these trails really well. I know you guys really well. I know the water temperature really well. I know when the wind comes up. I'm going to have time to drink coffee and have all my bathroom stops comfy. And this is foreshadowing.
There's a lot of foreshadowing.
There is.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you mentioned that, Annie, because the second you proposed it, Chipper and I were both like, that sounds like such a fun time. We get to swim run with someone who we know really well and care about, and we get to do it on our home course. So we kind of like checked out. We didn't we were talking about it on our little mini race report after the race on our drive back to Seattle. Typically, like the night before the race, we'd be like looking at the course map and making some plans, and we were just kind of so laid back about it because we were just in like a completely non-anxious state of mind. We like, all right, let's prep on this, burn some nervous energy by just preparing. It was just seemed super chill. We were so looking forward to it. And yeah, it was funny. Like we were just watching the basketball game and then the baseball game. It was
Yeah,
just
I
like
was the
all that
same.
time we could have been prepping.
I was totally the same. And I was like, anything I have to do, I can save to the morning. Like I laid 2 wetsuits
Yep.
out and I was like, I'll decide in the morning. I had this other stuff I was going to do in the morning. Should we just tell them what we did?
So much time.
Should we tell them what we did?
Sure.
I think we should tell
Yeah,
them what we did.
I think we should.
To all the
What did
listeners
we
out
do?
there, what the thing we're setting up right now is the fact that we completed the Bellingham Swimrun. We thought we had completed the Bellingham Swimrun, and we all were like, wow, we picked a pretty casual pace, but we're finishing faster than we thought we would. And do you know why? Because we were so relaxed and we were having such a good time that we missed an entire swim.
Whoops.
So this is the cautionary tale. We mentioned at the
Yes.
beginning, between us, we've done, I don't know, innumerable amount of swim runs. I would consider each of us extremely experienced in the sport. And yeah, we missed an entire
We had
swim.
a whoopsie.
We had a whoopsie. I still think we would have been the first team. We're still first team overall just because there wasn't anyone within 20 minutes of us or something.
Yeah.
So I think we had that one in the bag. But yeah, we missed an entire swim. Let's do like a little leg by leg breakdown. And I remember exactly where because for me, it's always really helpful, especially when I'm injured and want to make sure that I'm modulating my effort. When we were talking about, it's like, all right, this is the long run. This is the last run before the last swim. So
Mhm.
once we had all sort of,
We locked it
that's
in.
what we were on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. And it wasn't a course marking issue. It had to be human error because
Definitely.
kudos to Brent, but that course was really well marked. He was marking it at night the night before and it was great. Like there wasn't any point where I was like, "Oh, which way are we supposed to go?" So yeah, it was really an own goal on our part.
Yeah, we'll cover that later, but yeah, it was great. Everyone kind of sorting their gear out before. Theo, was posting on Reddit about a wetsuit that he was looking for Whistler. He was signing up to do a thing. So I messaged him and I said, hey, you seem to be the same size as the Löw Tide Böyz. Welcome to the Löw Tide Böyz Gear Loaner program. Where can I send this to? And he said, Seattle, Washington. I said, I'm going to be in Seattle tomorrow. You should do the Bellingham Swimrun. He said, I didn't even know it existed. The next
That's
day,
so
signed
awesome.
up, registered, showed up. I passed the wetsuit off to Theo and my original keel pull buoy that I got at Catalina in 2020. And he raced and had a great time with both of them. So, welcome to the Swim Run Club, Theo. But such a great community of
Yeah.
folks. We were
Yeah, we had
blessed
some
with
we had
the,
some great people coming from out of town. He
yep.
came in, I think from like Ohio to do the race. He had one of his best friends lived in Seattle and he was like, "Hey, I'm coming out." It's like coming
Yeah.
out. Team Twisted Sisters, which from Canada came down to do the race, which was super fun. Celeste from Sacramento. So I do think we had some influence in raising awareness about the race. But yeah, I mean, this is a race I think that should just sell out because it's so much fun. The trails are so awesome. It's like the barrier to entry is so low. And certainly, I didn't see anyone crossing the finish line that was like, screw this sport. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that
Definitely
doesn't
not.
happen a lot in swim run, but the race went off without incident at 9:02 or something after we gained Wi-Fi back from the hotspot to get the timing mats up and running. And then we one thing that Chris and I always try to do is take it, not blast right out of the gate. And this was especially the case because, trying to be conscious of Chris's situation and not put ourselves in a situation too early in the race. So we just
Yeah.
took it out and immediately I started checking. I'm like, this runs like a mile, Annie. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, oh, let me get my stuff on and get ready to go. Um, but even for having a triple, that first swim where you hit the boat ramp, which you actually are supposed to do twice,
Huh?
we are now aware of. The first boat ramp swim, I thought we actually pretty clean on the transition for our first in race triple transition. We hit it pretty good.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's something we talked about, right, Annie? We were like, all right, what's going 1, 2, 3 go? We're just gonna go down the line and just make sure everyone's good. Certainly, it's the best feeling in swim run to really just nail a transition both
Yeah.
ways. And I think we were doing the best we could. I think where I needed a little bit of the beat, which we talked about the day before, was on the exits out of the water. So I found that if I start transitioning when the water's a little bit deeper, it puts kind of like less pressure on my back. So I just kind of timed it that way and explain to everyone when I was going to be doing this, and that seemed to work well all day, I think.
I think our transitions were great. Just setting the stage. Water temp was around 60. air temp was 52. It was a little breezy. Should we talk about what we wore?
Yeah.
I was wearing a wetsuit. It was called the Vig Air. And
I've
it
heard
was
of that suit. I
Sleeveless.
really like it.
bold choice. It felt like a bold choice. I had saved the choice till the morning. I looked at the weather. So I have a pretty wide spectrum in between my two best swimrun wetsuit options. I have the Orno X, which is toasty, and I have the Vig
The
Air, which
warmest. Yeah.
doesn't have sleeves, which is the coldest. And I don't really have a lot of, so like the Vig Air, you can't wear sleeves with. So I didn't have a lot of options in between, and I was real toasty in the shakeout swim the day before. I thought conditions are likely to be warmer because sun was forecasted. So I'm just going to go with the Vig Air. Not to mention, everyone knows how we feel about the Vigs. They're just a joy to wear, and I just wanted to wear it. So I wore it, and that's what I was wearing. No sleeves, no nothing, just Vig Air.
And it's first swim. Everyone regrets their swimrun decisions on the beginning of the fight.
Actually, the first swim, as we were swimming, I remember every time I breathed to the right, there was like something about the view, the sky. It was like I could see that there was going to be a little blue sky, and I felt like I was a totally sustainable temperature. And every time I breathed to the right, I was like, yes, I picked the right suit. I was like literally feeling exact gratitude for how stoked I was on my choice. So I was feeling stoked. I did not have regret. I was like, I chose the right suit. I'm
Good.
feeling great about this.
That's good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you're wearing it. You can't change it now. You're in the race, so helpful
Definitely not.
That is true. And then Chris, we both wore Vigs with arm sleeves. Kind of standing around at the start line, it kind of did get a little bit cold, and it made me a little bit nervous at first. But once we started running, everything got warmed up. It was actually really nice the whole day. I only took my cap off on one run and unzipped, mostly just to store my paddles. But I think overall the Vig was the right choice for us. I probably could have gone sans arm sleeves for the whole, or obviously could if Annie went without any sleeves at all. I could have managed without the arm sleeves, but Vig was a solid choice again.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And we all had the Adidas of some capacity. Annie and I had the old school ones, and then you had the updated Terrace.
Yeah.
And then Chipper and I were using our Löw Tide Böyz signature Frank paddles. And Annie was using your Stroke Masters, your Pink
Yep.
Stroke Masters.
My Pink Stroke Masters.
Nice.
I'm training up to
Yeah.
use the Frank paddles, which are significantly larger than the Stroke Masters, but that's another story for another
Yeah,
time.
even the smalls are significantly bigger. So Annie, I have a question for you. So you've obviously done a lot of swimming with Brooke, and Brooke was tend to be the one who was leading the swims, if not exclusively leading the swims. What was the experience, not just drafting off of one person, but drafting off of two people? And, did it feel any different than just being a two-person team versus a three-person team being in the back?
The things I noticed that were different, I think overall our moving speed was faster. So when I was
Mm.
swimming behind Brooke on a tether, it was less important that I was really cinched in because if I got off the draft, I could catch up and I could get it again. And swimming with you, the overall speed was faster. So if I fell off the draft, it just took more effort for me to get back. So like when we did our shakeout and the tether was a little bit long, there was like a foot and a half between us. I would like feel that the tether was getting taut, and then I'd be like, oh, I gotta like get back in the bubbles. And
More
then
surgy kind of
yeah,
on the
exactly.
on the
So having a sort of more of a discrepancy between the front swimmer speed and the back swimmer speed, I think means it's more important that the tether is like exactly precisely the right length. Whereas for Brooke and I, that didn't matter as much. And and then the other thing actually, because as you know, Brooke would find a pair of shoes that she loved and just stockpile them. So she is only
heavily
ever
invest.
heavily invest. Yeah, she's still going through her Adidas Terrex Ultras.
8 boxes to go.
She has like 6 to go. And but the two types of shoes that she wore both had super bright bottoms. And I took for granted how much that helps to orient you. Because like when I was behind you, Chris, I would not always know where you were. And I know that sounds crazy because you were right
Same.
there. But the bright bottom
Right.
shoes
Well,
are huge.
yeah.
And you did not have bright bottoms
Yeah.
on your shoes, which was why I was
I
like,
did
Chris
not.
is here. He's really close, but I don't know where.
He's within
That's a
3
really good
meters.
point. Like there's a tether that looks like it's coming out his butt. The Terex that I was wearing were this like kind of weird colorway where it was like kind of white tan on the top and then black on the bottom.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I initially really liked the Terex was because they were so brightly colored. And yeah, it's almost like blaze, you can really pick it up. That's a really interesting observation. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, how you mentioned, Annie, about something we learned from the test or the shakeout swim run about, sort of when we would transition in, if we just started hitting it right out of the gate from the swim, that would kind of create that separation, which would cause you to like burn more matches to get on. So when I started the swims, I kind of like eased and like ramped into it to make sure you were like within contact. And then we kind of got things going there. But it was only, couple easier strokes to make sure everyone's together. And then I found myself more like looking behind to make sure everyone's kind of like in the right vicinity, and then, can like dial it up or speed up from there.
It's funny. I actually saw you doing that because I happened to be sighting one time when you look back. I'm like, oh, there's something I should be worried about. I was like, what's
Like a
he looking
shark.
at?
But yeah, that first swim, solid. That's a solid like 700-800 swim. I think overall I was like, I'm gonna gas these swims as much as I can to really, just because it seemed fun for me to do. And yeah, it was a good time, and the tether worked out. But Chris, in the middle, we kind of talked about this a little bit during the race. Like, you had a really interesting position in the middle of the swim, because not only were you trying to stay in contact with the front swimmer, but you also had to kind of manage letting someone draft off you as well, which, tether pulling your pull buoy down and making sure you were staying consistent. So the middle person also had kind of an interesting strategy to play too.
Yeah, I mean, the way I thought about it was like, well, my job is to stay on your feet. And it's kind of like Annie's job to stay on mine. And we all just do our jobs there. And, I've swam with you a lot, Chipper. So I don't feel the need to be tapping you up as much.
Yeah.
And certainly the first one, I feel like I was tapping you up, I think because I was juiced up too. I think like my 20 milligram caffeine gel, like just kicked in then or whatever. But actually I really liked getting like tapped up by Annie, like pretty much every swim. You're tapping my feet, staying right on there. Good, because then it's like you couldn't see it. No, but
Oh,
yes,
I was
you
like,
couldn't
oh,
see it.
there they are.
But yeah, and she was like, "Do you mind that I'm tapping you?" I'm like, "No, no, it's great," because it's like, all right, tap means that she's right there, not something. But yeah, I think there was one swimmer like your goggles and you stopped and felt like I was getting pants like in the locker room in high school. And then what I did to Chipper, I basically like pulled pretty hard on the tether for him to kind of get the signal so he get pants too a little bit. But yeah, I thought it was manageable. Again, I was just kind of staying in my lane, like literally, and just kind of, okay, what's my job here, which is just to make it as easy for Chipper as possible.
Yeah, I think the one scenario where that could be tricky is if something was going on in the back. It just takes a longer time to get that information up the telephone to the leader.
I did have one thought during that first swim to kind of get back into race report. I was just thinking of one water race, and I was like, can you imagine doing this for like 10Ks at night? Just
on the
3
third
people
day of no
swimming?
sleeping.
It's like it's just insane. Yeah, I mean, and I think one thing that I think we'd have to think about if we were doing something where we wanted to switch positions, there was really no easy way to kind of like give Chipper a breather, right? Unless we were doing something where I would just like remain stationary, and then Annie, you would like come to the front, and Chipper, you would go to the back. But I didn't see a way that I could kind of like, there's no way for me to kind of lead the swim the way we were tethered. We'd have to like untether, like someone would have to untether to whoever's going to be in the middle or something like that. Be some workshopping there in case we did want to, if it was like, let's say it was some super long swim or something and we were racing again as a triple. I'm sure like the one water race folks probably have a system for this. Like maybe one of the tethers is like on a, just like on a carabiner that can slide up and down.
Yeah.
I think that worked well. Now first swim, yeah, I'm always a little nervous. And this one I was nervous for different reasons. It wasn't like a time finish. It was just like, I'm really not trying to aggravate this thing that's been, basically making me depressed on many levels. Just trying to get to the bottom of it and resolve it. And yeah, and a lot of that actually fell away because once I got into sort of the swimmer mode and we were moving well and we were just kind of doing the thing, besides what I felt like was a little bit of a lack of fitness for the pace. And I felt like I was huffing and puffing. That first swim just really kind of reminded me why I love the sport and why it's so much fun. And like you, Annie, when I would breathe and I would just be like, man, it's just like, this is such a great lake. This is what I kept saying, like, oh, this lake is so cool.
Yeah.
Chipper, I don't know how many teams you passed on that first. I mean, we took it pretty casual going in, but when we came out of that swim, we're certainly sort of top 3, top 2 or something, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of folks in front of us that I was trying to bridge to. A solo female who I think was probably first overall, I would guess. She did the whole course.
Yeah, she was
And then there was
first female overall
okay,
and second finisher overall.
very strong
Yeah.
swimmer, probably had 100 yards on us, actually, but I was trying to not let that be the case. But yeah, we were coming out in pretty good position, and again, just very, very cautious as we had talked about that first swim about, hey, coming out early, making sure I'm getting out and I'm kind of like setting up myself to give you a hand and to be ready to like be an assist for you if you need it, Chris. But I think overall, like our transitions were for taking it quote unquote slow and trying to take it easy. I think we did pretty well on the transitions overall. I would give high marks on the race
Yeah.
for our transitions.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was one transition, like the super rocky, the one that's most like Attila, right, where you gotta like
Yeah.
climb up
Yeah,
onto the rock.
And it's
That
really
one got
tricky.
weird.
It's really slippery, but I was in the back, so I got to see all this play out. When we arrived at that transition, there was a solo racer who was starting to try to get out,
Struggling.
struggling because it's
struggling.
really
He was.
slippery. And he didn't have anybody to give him a hand or a boost or anything. And he had tried a few different
I
ways
was
to get
coming.
out. And we were coming, and he did eventually get it. But it took us overall, I think, less time to get out as a team of 3 than it had taken him to get out as a team of 1, which is another testament to why this sport is a
Yeah.
team sport. It's like,
Yeah.
gosh, we help each other. And we got that transition. We just 1, 2, 3 popped out, and it was like, give a hand, give a boost, talk someone through where you see a step.
Yep.
And we all got out, and it was
Yep.
really efficient. And then we were tethered as 3, and there was this big rooty kind of cliff that we had to climb up. And Chris was like, I think you were just really stoked to be out. And so
Yeah, you were
ran
charged up on
you. But we were all
Yeah,
still
so I was
tethered.
basically leading the flying V, and I was just like, I had 2 tethered people, like basically pulling my pants down.
So like Chris,
But
the cream center of the pastry, just busted out, and Chipper and I were like, okay, we're just shoving.
I was like,
I'm
this isn't going
sorry,
to
I
work for
thought we
very
were all
long.
going. I thought we were all going.
It was
That's
a
my
high
bad.
point.
No.
I loved it.
Because like yeah, like me getting out first was kind of just weird because it got like the tether kind of all bungled up or whatever.
With swim
Yeah,
exit
this was
3,
swim
I
3.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah, before that, run 1 was cool. It's a series of little loops, so you get to explore different parts of Lake Padden, and pretty quickly you start doing some elevation. Lovely, pillowy trails, ferns. You're in the
Beautiful.
woods. You just want to start hugging trees and stuff. There's like people walking their dogs, and all the dogs are cool. Like no dog is like barky at you or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even the vibe of the pets was like everyone was super chill, like here for
Chill.
it. And
Good
yeah,
vibes
so
in
we do that.
Bellingham.
We do that loop. I don't remember how long it was, maybe like a mile and a half or something.
Mhm.
And then got into the swim 2, which again, like I felt like at that point, by the time we got to like our second transition point, it was already like just
Yeah, we were
it's like old
we were in
times.
the
Like we've been doing
groove.
this a long time.
Yeah.
And certainly I remember thinking, I was like, yes. I honestly I felt like I couldn't be super chatty because I was huffing and puffing a lot there. And I was just trying to just taking my gels and stuff. But I don't want to ask you, Annie, because like, 20 minutes I start like flashing the currency to Chipper, which is like my PFH, 30 gel, and not even really say anything. I just like dangle it. He's like, oh yeah, okay, it's 20 minutes. And we got you eating pretty early too.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm curious, what was your experience of seeing us follow our fueling plan?
I loved it. I mean, this is like the new era of fueling. This is what we do. And I am usually the person
She's sold.
in a group who's like, guys, gotta eat. Like, y'all remember to eat. It's time. And I never start at 20 minutes. I don't follow the textbook. And you two follow the textbook. And it was awesome. It was like a constant, like Scooby snack break. It was great.
I remember the first time we were going, you're like, "Oh, we're eating right now." I'm like, "You're racing with the boys, you eating with the boys. Let's go. Get those carbs down the hatch."
Okay, let me just find something here.
Yeah, there's plenty of race pictures too, where we're like, I was trying to do some product placement photos. There's plenty of photos of us just like eating to the point where Brent sent the photos over to us earlier today. He's like, you guys just like were doing anything other than eating or something? I forget how he put it, but it was super funny.
There's a disproportionate number of race photos of us eating because we were eating, because that's what you do if you want to fuel your body appropriately to perform. And I love fueling my body appropriately to perform, and I And thank you so much for starting that at 20 minutes because that's what you're supposed to do. And truth told, I don't. I usually start at 45, which is halfway through this race. So that's silly.
Yeah.
I loved
Well,
it.
and I'll tell you from my side, and this is like a pro tip for anyone out there. Like I knew that I was a little underfit, and Chipper's been amazing, like super fit. This is, probably your fitness this year compared to last year was like an order of magnitude higher just because you've been doing all the strength. You've been, you've been really been on top of it, which is like, I feel like a proud partner. Yes, super fit partner. Now you can lead all the swims without me feeling guilty.
I'm happy to.
Because I felt that I was underfit, and even from the shakeout swim run, I was definitely breathing heavier than I like to on a lot of these runs. I was like, well, what I certainly can control is making sure I don't get bonk here, right? Or like, it's like I'm going to need all the energy that I have. So I mean, I try to be really diligent anyway, but for this race in particular, I made it a point of being like, hook or crook. I got to make sure that I'm topping off the tank as much as I can because I have a feeling just from the way it was the day before that I'm going to be using it all up and I'm going to want it later. So I time my caffeine gels appropriately, which I feel like I've become like a master of that. And I've certainly taken a gel every 20 minutes or whenever practicable. The caffeine gel. So I don't usually take one. So our plan is 20 minutes before the race, you take your first gel. So it basically kicks in. And I usually don't take a caffeine gel because there's enough, I'm already like naturally caffeinated enough. But I took one for this because I wanted to make sure for that first swim, like I had kind of like all my energy reserves, like everything kind of turned on. Because I also know how Chipper is, and I know he likes to, kind of like go for it on that first swim to kind of set the tone. It's fine. It's fine. I know that he yells at me and threatens to trip me out on the first runs of swims. Like,
but I do it to you, yeah.
But hey, you know what? I know that like for Chipper, it's really that first swim, and we've done so many races where that first swim is really what sets the tone for the whole day. I'm thinking like Casco 2021, which was our real kind of coming out party after like thinking about swim run all through COVID and training super hard. And like that first swim was like, damn, okay, like this is different than before. So there's a lot of history with that swim. So I want to make sure, at least for that one, like I owe it to Chipper to just like, I can't be dogging on this first swim because I know how he is, right? So I took one then, and then I took a second and I was trying to take a gel like every 20 minutes, PFH 30 gel. And then I took my second caffeine gel, which again also had 20 milligrams. I took it right before the swim, before the long run, before the swim that we skipped. So that I would have it just for like the last 45 minutes of activity. So that basically it would kind of like the half-life of that would last me through the end of the race. And it was great. It worked out great.
Awesome.
And now I had one, the PFH 100, or sorry, 30, PFH 30, but the calf. So it had 100 milligrams of calf. I'm a high caffeine, high coffee intake person, but I have been, friend of the show, Phil, has been smashing the caffeine. I think at Catalina, he did 600 milligrams of caffeine. I'm like, dude, I don't even know if that's safe. So I've been trying to push it too. So, but I had 100 to start, which is pretty normal.
Wait, pause. Like, hey, Phil, I don't think it's safe, but I've been pushing.
But since you're still alive, I'm going to try
Safety be damned.
Since you're alive, since you haven't had a heart attack on a run, I'm going to try it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
are you
caffeinating,
Annie?
Yes. The way that I think about caffeine is I like to save it for the back half. I'm the same. I start out with plenty of natural energy, and I have a cup of coffee in the morning, and I love coffee, but I'm like a 1 or 2 cups in the morning person. So I don't think quite as into the caffeine maybe as you are, Chipper. But if it's like I use it for the exact reasons that you're talking about, Chris. If I anticipate that I'm going to be undergunned for the task in any way, then I'll use it more strategically and earlier. And if I just am sort of like, I want to finish stronger than I would without this, which is usually how I feel, I save it for the back half. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of a tangent, but for Catalina, like Chipper and I were talking, and when I was trying to get fit for that race and ultimately wasn't able to do it, which is in hindsight a smart decision because that race is a beast. It's a beast race. You don't want to show up to that race undercooked. That's for damn sure. A lot of the times when we would race together, sort of my mindset going in was I'm going to control what I can because I don't want to be the weakest link. I don't want to be the reason through my own issues to hold us back. I want to like help the team move forward. And, when I got hurt, I kind of started sort of switch that because that's like kind of like a negative way of thinking about it. And the way I think about it now is more like, and Chipper and I spoke about this is like, this is the capacity that I have to give to this, and I promise you I'm going to give you everything I have, but here's where I am. And in our discussions, like, it has to be good enough, because this is what I have to give. I give you anything I can't control and I don't have on offer. So going into this race, like, the way I was thinking about my fueling is like, well, how do I make sure I preserve what I'm able to give and actually give you what I have by being smart in the areas that are within my control, which, certainly fueling is one of them. Hydrating, not doing anything stupid, communicating if I like didn't end up not really being necessary, but communicating to you guys if I needed to slow down and need to take a walk break or whatever it is. And there was some natural. The last run had this like super steep section, which I was like,
the course had some brakes built in.
Yeah, exactly.
Banana
so there was
slug.
like hiking, but going in, kind of getting back into the race report, so much of my thinking was like, I want to contribute this to the best of my abilities. And I think for the most part, I sort of exceeded my own expectations, because, partly because you guys were, totally just down to make sure that I was okay, which I always obviously appreciate.
Yeah. I mean, I was ready to go out there and have a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, we already talked about this before, but I was like, hey, I just want to go out there and like swim run for like 2 to 3 hours with you. That sounds like a lot of fun. So I don't really care about anything else, but like, that's what I want to get out of this. And we were on the same page for that. So that's what made the whole thing easy.
Yeah.
We have other times to go blow it out if we want to do that.
Yeah, and super memorable to get to do with Annie, again, first time doing a triple, which was like, its own learnings. Like, hey, as content producers in this space, right? This micro space. It's like, hey, how many different ways can we talk about this? It's like, hey, now we can talk about it as the triple team, which is something that we've never done before. So,
And
as much as we want to
did-
experience Swimrun in different ways.
I want to talk about all the different possibilities that we did not explore as a triple that we still have out there for the triplets of Bellingham, which we might have to rename if we ever do this at another swim run that's not in Bellingham. But we only tried the freight train tether, like the railroad tether, where you're just in line. We had fantasies about doing the flying V or the swimming V.
It was proposed.
It was proposed. It was considered. It would be so sexy, but it could also
ultimately
be so catastrophic. So we chickened out. We didn't even try it, but we were thinking we might want to finish with that as a really glamorous move.
Just for
and
show.
Then we thought that
and
it could really backfire.
And if you're sitting at home or driving to work listening to this and you're trying to visualize it, basically 2 people are clipping into Chipper, and Annie and I are basically in his wake, with like the Guns of Navarone music playing in the background, or like the Symphony of Overture of William Tell or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It's like dun 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 dun. Anyway, that's what was going on there.
But when
and
we were
like,
talking about this,
weren't sure that it was gonna work.
No, we were talking about this, and I think like this one of the last swim legs, I'm like, man, I am kind of feeling a little smoky right now in the shoulders. I'm like, I've been lugging 2 people around. I should. And then they're talking about doing the V, and I'm like, that's gonna be like a giant parachute on the back of me. I don't want that. I'm like, that doesn't sound very fun to me.
Yeah,
So I'm glad
Amy
we
and I in
bailed
the
on
back clanking hand paddles.
Yeah.
We also didn't do any
yeah.
tethering. We didn't do any tethering on any of the runs, which is another uncharted area of triple racing. Yeah.
How do you think that would have worked out? I mean, I think we mostly for safety, actually, we kind of untethered just based on wanting to give Chris the most flexibility with what he needed in terms of like exiting the situation and not being forced into a situation that he wasn't ready for from like his, physical standpoint. So that's why we kind of unclipped but Chris and I mean, we stayed tethered fairly.
I think the first run we stayed
couple.
tethered mostly because like we knew it was a shorter run. So, but I think after that, it was just easier to kind of chit chat as well. And we weren't just like a line of people. I know, Annie, you mentioned this, like you're used to way more chit chattiness. And I would say Chipper and I typically, maybe we were just shy or something. I don't know, but we typically are chattier. I think mostly it's because like I just couldn't talk because I was just kind of huffing.
I was huffing and puffing too. I mean,
I think that was my most notable note about the difference between racing with my partner and racing with you guys. And it's interesting to hear because I was also feeling a little less chatty just by nature. So we're just in like the getting to know you phase of racing together
for the first time.
Well, not that there was any doubts on your fitness level or anything, but you were just galloping up those trails, very spry, very like the bunnies that you have up there in Bellingham. You were bouncing all over. It was so much fun to run around with you. You were navigating the trails with local knowledge. I was
Totally.
jealous.
I know every one of those routes by name. It's like, oh, it's like, good morning, route number 10. Hello. Good to dance upon you
Yeah.
again. Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
those are my home trails, and it was super fun to
It,
share with you guys.
which makes it even more interesting that
Yeah, let's get
Oh,
not
into the
long
crawl.
after that, we do what we think is the last long swim of the day, crossing back towards we did like the second loop, and we're coming back towards the start to start what we thought was our last run. And at that point, I was already like, all right, how much energy expenditure we have left? We know the last run is no joke. We're doing it backwards from when we did it last year. So, I remembered some of it, but unless you're there a lot, it's kind of hard to really remember a lot of stuff. I remember we're all asking, is like, okay, this is the last long run. What happened was we made a mistake. We missed a swim that was definitely mentioned and on the map. It's an interesting cautionary tale because here's us, like three really experienced swim runners. And sort of once we had our mind kind of set, we almost like, just
stop
kind of like
thinking.
just
Yeah,
stopped
we weren't
thinking.
Yeah.
looking. Yeah, it was like we weren't looking for a swim. So we just
Okay.
kept running.
So
Yeah.
I have replayed this in my head, and here's what's going on in my head because I also take the lion's share of responsibility because as we just discussed, this is my backyard. Brent and
You
I
know the names of all the routes.
we know the names of
And
all the routes.
you did design the course.
And so an extra plot twist is that this is the part of the course that Brent, he did actually have to redesign some things because a tree fell down over the winter and was chopped up over a swim exit. So he had to change the course. Initially, he was running it by me. We literally like went up there and stood at the boat launch, which was the entrance of the swim we missed. And we're talking it through, and he was saying, I might just take this swim out and have the long run start from here. And I like stood on a soapbox and made a case for him to keep that swim in, to swim again from the boat launch. Because I was like, no, like it's a long course. It should have another swim. So not only did I I fought to have that, like I advocated to have that last swim put in. And then when we all agreed as a group that there was no more swim, I remember having this little like chirp in my brain, like as we ran by the boat launch that was like, wait, weren't there two from the boat launch? But I was just running at that point, and I shushed it away and ran on. And then thinking back, when I was running and when that chirp came, there were two trucks down on the boat launch launching boats. So my theory is that they were backed in front of the arrow. So it's not a course marking arrow. It's not their fault because it's a multi-use area.
They were just blocking.
Yeah.
But
That's
the
right.
other thing
That's
is
right.
the race started at 9 a.m. and I was gonna like review all the swims in the morning before the race, but I didn't do it. So always do that. Don't skip that. Don't get too relaxed. That's the
Yeah, it's
cautionary tale.
cautionary. I mean, again, we weren't there. This is something that I was talking to my wife about. It's, because she's like, how'd the race go and stuff like that. And, I'm a big believer in just kind of like accepting reality. And it's like for swimrun in particular, it's like something's gonna go sideways, right? You're gonna miss a turn, you're gonna forget to take a gel, you're gonna like forget to drink, something's gonna go wrong. So something went wrong for us, wasn't exactly what we thought was gonna go wrong. But I was just kind of just like very just kind of agnostic about it. Like, yeah, it's bummed that we missed the swim, but it's kind of like, it's never going to be perfect. And this is the thing that we kind of messed up on. But I would still say, like, yeah, we missed the swim, but cautionary tale, you should pay attention. But that last run, I'm glad I got a little bit more of it because that last run is so great. On the expert loop,
Yeah.
talk about just majestic redwoods, old growth, cool climbs. Again, the friendliest dogs off leash, like random looks from people. That run is special. I really enjoyed that. It was like 3 miles, something like that. Can't remember.
I looked on, ended up doing closer to 5.
Oh my.
But that last swim would have been nice. It was a cool swim because it was back across. Like it would have been a fun one to do. But yeah, we finished, we ran by, we're like, that's great. And then I saw somebody that had been ahead of us the whole time. I'm like, oh, kind of in my head, I was like, oh, we must have passed him in the water somewhere. We weren't kind of like paying attention.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, I was
Brent
surprised when they said we were the second ones to finish. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was like 2 people in front of us the whole time.
It was the female competitor that we couldn't catch on the first swim. She was ahead of us for the whole time. And then I saw her finish and I was like, well, how did that happen? I think that was when we
Yeah.
all kind of clicked it together, and I think she realized and Brent realized,
Yeah.
and it was like
Yeah,
we
and
never passed her.
someone went up and someone went up to Brett and was like, I don't remember the Low Tide Boys passing me on any runs or swims. So Brett came up to us, he's like, do you remember doing this? We're like, it's like,
Oh, like we definitely didn't do 2 boat ramp swims.
We did
Um,
not.
and he even commented, he's like, man, you guys made up incredible pace in the last second half of the thing. I'm like, well, yeah, because we were just running it instead of swimming. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with
Whoops.
you,
Yeah.
Chris. I had this cringe moment where I was like, that was my only job, was to know the course, and I didn't do it. But then it was like we met the goals for the day. Chris didn't get injured. We
That's,
had a great day. We had 2 to 3 hours of swim running, and those were our
Yep.
goals. So I'm happy with
yeah,
the
Yep.
day.
Yeah.
same. I'm like, hey, do we go out there and do we have fun and do a swim run? Yes. That's why we came up to Bellingham. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, would have loved to do the course as the man intended it, Mr.
Yeah,
Brent
yeah, right. Yeah, for
himself.
no other reason than we get to do a little bit more swim running, right? But
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, it's exactly, Chipper. Like our goal wasn't to go up and like repeat as champions or anything like that. It was really about like, hey, let's support this race. We already kind of know that we're obviously super experienced, and when we show up at swim runs, like we got all the gear and the carbon fiber, this and that. And it's kind of weird because when we started swim running in 2018, when we showed up at our first race, there were other people that had all the gear and we're like, oh, look at those guys. Like those
Yeah.
guys are
They got a
legit. And
tether.
now,
Yeah.
and then that's certainly us at races these days. But yeah, it was so fun to just go out there and really just to support the local race, and to get to do it with you, Annie, was a real highlight. And yeah, and just like we said earlier, we're trying to find all the ways to experience swim run, and to say that we've done a triple is just super, super memorable.
Yeah, totally. It was a
Absolutely.
really special day, and thank you so much for coming up to our race. It was great.
Yeah, no
Of
problem. No
course.
problem.
Yeah.
Any
Thoughts?
sort, yeah.
Hmm. It's like sort of the moral of the story. We're cautioning people against getting too relaxed, but I don't want to take that too far. That feeling in the first swim of feeling like I chose the right wetsuit. This is the most beautiful lake. This is a strong pace. This feels good, is best enjoyed when you're not super stressed. Maybe the takeaway is like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You miss a swim and you still have a great day. Stay relaxed.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Especially
We've
when you
been
don't know you missed it.
exactly.
just ignorantly
Then
about
you
it.
finish and you feel so happy. No, and
I'm so
I'm
fast.
I know there were a couple comments about that. Like, the pace is so much faster than last year.
I'm way better than last year.
It definitely depends on your goals, but match your level of relaxation to the goals that you're making. And if the goals you're making are not like a time goal or a podium goal or a placement goal, some kind of outcome goal, oh my goodness, don't stress. Swimrun is so fun. Don't ruin it with stress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly like the experience that we were trying to get, the experience goal was met in spades. And, I can't recommend this race highly enough. Talk about, like, again, mentioned at the beginning, super low barrier to entry. It's beautiful. If it's raining, you're wearing the right gear for it. It's
Yep.
like, it's just so much fun. There was people, one of the guys was just wearing like, I don't even think they were
Running
swim shorts.
shorts.
He was just,
The guy
just
who won,
shorts.
he
Guy
was the
who
first
wasn't wearing
finisher.
shorts.
He was wearing both
Yeah.
long baggy shorts and the singlet, and that was what he wore. He's a swim coach in town, super strong, had a great day.
Clearly.
What fastest
Yeah.
competitor? Yeah,
And
so cool.
the short course is a great, nice little tidy, 3 or 4 runs and swims there. If there was a father-son team, a couple of teams as well, and our good friend Brandon Nelson of Brandon Nelson Realtor Partners, your realtor for the Greater Bellingham area. His wife and daughter Jazzy raced the short course as well. We got to see Brandon as well, which was really awesome. And always seeing those initials imprinted on the swim buoys is nice.
Yeah. There are some cool stories from the short course. There was a pair of racers
hear it.
who were both 10 years old, and they were not accompanied by an adult, and they did the whole course, finished super strong with a sprint. These 2 young women.
Wow.
So cool. And then
Wow.
there
That's
was a
awesome.
family of 4, 2 parents who were older. Their kids were in their 20s, and they raced together as a family of 4. They had, in the last couple years, gone through kind of a family really big health incident, and they were all there and healthy, and they raced together and they finished the race. This is the kind of thing you can do in a
That's great.
5K swim run, is these amazing sort of like, find the person you care about and go do this thing.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's worth mentioning at the end here, kind of what's next. So Chipper's next race is going to be in France or for
Oh,
a wedding,
wait.
which is I can't wait for that race report.
Oh,
How'd it
boy.
go, buddy? Let's go. So he's going to be in France for like 2.5 weeks for a wedding, and he's like, might as well slip in a swim run, which
I checked out Dave's list and I navigated the dates, and we're in France. So Swimrun Man has Lake Vassavir half, which is about a 38K, 40K swim run, 14 runs, 13 swims across a bunch of different lakes. So yeah, I'm taking the family down there. We're taking a train from Paris, renting a car. We got this little cabin on one of the lakes, so the family's going to be out there. I managed to find a French swim runner out there to do it with me, so it's going to be an amazing experience. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. And then my next race, well, actually, I should say our next race is Attila Whistler. So super stoked.
Nice.
So, definitely a new experience for you to race with just one different partner instead of just two. But yeah, I'm very excited to be able to do that race with you, and certainly feeling buoyed by my resilience on this race to make me feel like that's something that's possible. So I'm very excited for that.
So am I. I'm looking forward to it.
A month away almost.
Sure is.
Nice.
Yeah, 1 month to get ready, and it's going to be super fun. Can't wait to go back and do that race. But I think with that, that's Bellingham Swimrun, people. You sign up next year. We're going to try to be back there if at all possible. And we've been chatting about, it'd be fun to do kind of like a training weekend up there and have it culminate with the race so we can put something together. Folks want to come up. It could be like an intro to swimrun series. I can't think of a better location to not just like get a swim run in, but also just, if your first swim run is Bellingham, I've had a hard time believing you're not going to be super stoked. I'm just saying, it's an opinion, but I think it's pretty solid that if Bellingham is your first swim run, you're going to be looking for more.
Absolutely. Cool.
Cheers to
Annie,
that.
any words of wisdom to send us out?
Cheers to that. If 2 is great, 3 is better. No, I don't know. Not that.
Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, by the way, I think we should just agree that our
What is our
name
team
is the
name?
triple.
Oh yeah.
I think it should be the triplets of Bellingham. I think is
the triplets of Bellingham.
name.
Yeah, triplets of
There we go.
Bellingham.
Bonded by tethers
Yes.
and pull buoys.
Here's my kernel of innovation. I think the tether method that we did should be called the double triple tether.
The double triple tether.
Yeah.
Double triple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because it is 2 tethers.
And 3 people.
Yeah, the triple.
Hooking 3 people together.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Makes sense.
Team, the triplets of Bellingham, out.
Signing off.
Signing off.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swimrun.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Löw Tide Böyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
of course, yes.